Hello and welcome to Shattered Lives, a podcast for Reach Ireland, including the Irish Daily Star and Irish Mirror. I'm Michael O'Toole and this is Paul Healy. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Mick.
So we're on day 4 of our special coverage of a civil case that has been taking place in Court 24 of the 4 courts in central Dublin. And that there are 3 people involved in that case. Nikita Hand is the complainant, and there are 2 respondents, 2 people being sued, James Lawrence and Conor McGregor. So today was day 4. Where do we start today, Paul?
Well, I think we should start with something that was mentioned by Judge Owens at the opening of the case, which is a concern that was raised by the jury in relation to an allegation that somebody had their phone propped up in the public gallery, which is just above everybody else. So it's on an upper floor. And the allegation was that they were concerned that somebody may be filming them, taking photographs of them. So Judge Owens said he was taking this quite seriously, and he wanted to remind members of the public and anyone in the courtroom, indeed, that it is contempt of court to record, take photos or any video of the jury or of anything else in the proceedings, and that he would be watching for it going forward. And he also asked that a member of An Garda Síochána be placed up into the public gallery, and also that anyone standing in the public gallery should not be doing so, that people should just be sitting down in the public gallery. So that's how things kicked off before Miss Hand even got back into the witness box.
And that's a very serious issue. People may not know this. There may be some people who go to courts who aren't really aware of the rules, but you're not allowed to use camera phones or take pictures in a court. And it's a very serious issue, and judges look at that very, very seriously.
They do, and this is a case that has attracted, obviously, for obvious reasons, an awful lot of public attention. So the courtroom is packed to the rafters, literally every single day. And in fairness, while we're professional journalists and there are people who are in and out of the courts every day, there are people who've probably never been in a courtroom before in their life. So they've been told now, they've been warned as to what the rules are and the possibility of what could happen if they break them.
Okay, so let's get into the evidence, but just the usual precursor. This is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. There's nobody facing any similar criminal charges or criminal sanction. And it's a jury of 8 women and 4 men. So the complainant, Miss Hand, has spent, I think this was her 4th day on the witness stand, and her evidence continued today when she was cross-examined by Remy Farrell, senior counsel.
Yeah, so Mr. Farrell represents Conor McGregor, and he was continuing where he left off yesterday in relation to cross-examining Miss Hand. We heard a 38-minute recording yesterday of a conversation between her then partner Stephen and her that he recorded, and she subsequently found out about. And so she was being questioned today about that. So Mr. Farrell was asking her about the fact that she never tells Steve the name of the person who she says raped her. He says that you were too scared to tell Steve Mr. McGregor's name, and she said yes. And several times he asked her about telling quote unquote lies to her partner, and she accepted that she did tell him lies, that she was too afraid to tell him the truth. He asked her specifically about where she said in the recording that she was in the Morgan bar. And he had stated to her that she couldn't have possibly been or possibly thought that she was in the Morgan bar. And Miss Hand said again she wasn't telling the truth. And he put it to her, Mr. Farrell, that was a conscious untruth. She said, I knew it was untrue. She became, she was quite descriptive then about her untruths, and she gave her reason for it. She said, I knew it was untrue. I didn't want to tell the truth. I lied to my boyfriend. It's just as simple as that, she said. But she said, me lying to my boyfriend does not take away from what happened to me. Lying to your boyfriend isn't a crime, but what happened to me is a crime.
And then I believe Mr. Farrell then questioned her about claims that she had been threatened by Conor McGregor, and Mr. Farrell told the court that although she said that, she did not say that to Gardaí.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that's it. On the tape, on the recording, you can hear her saying that she couldn't say who had raped her because this person had threatened her, threatened to kill her, that she had been warned not to say who was responsible to it for it. And Mr. Farrell put it to her that, well, at no stage in your Garda interview on the 5th of January 2019 or on the 4th of February 2019 did she ever mention that she had been threatened by Conor McGregor. And she had said that she had no recollection of that.
So then Mr. Farrell puts it to Miss Hand. Is that something that happened or didn't happen?
Yeah, and again, she cited her memory in relation to this, and she is saying that she's heard on the recording saying that. Um, Mr. Farrell also asked her about text messages that she sent to Steve, where she said that she was on her way home and that she was dropping Emer home, and this is something she says she doesn't remember sending a text, but Mr. Farrell says, as per her evidence, that's something that she also knew to be untruthful, and he said that this and the other lies that she told were part of a quote unquote web of lies that Miss Hand has told. He continued by saying, "You're telling lies to see repeatedly." She said, "I was crying, I was confused, I was hurt, but I agree with you that I did lie to my boyfriend." Um, he asked her why at this stage she was lying, and also asked her about uh, a, a narrative where she said that she ran out. And she said at that particular time she was confused, she was traumatized. She said, "I was after being raped, battered, and all I cared about was my body and how sore it was." So she was also challenged on the fact that Steve had talked about her friends still being in the hotel, and he was concerned for them. And she said, "At that point, I didn't care about anyone else except myself."
And I think Mr. Farrell further questioned her on whether or not she bit Conor McGregor, and she was challenged on, I think it was about CCTV, and you can't see if you bit someone in the face, there'd be a mark.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was put to her in the CCTV footage. She is going down in the elevator after the alleged rape with Conor McGregor, and that she was quote unquote face to face with him in the lift. And could she not remember then looking at his face? She says she was traumatized at that point in time, and she doesn't remember looking at his face. And she was very confused about her claim, that she bit him in the face. She says now she doesn't know where she bit him, but she knows that she did bite Conor McGregor.
One of the next pieces of evidence, or one of the next things that Miss Hand was questioned about, was her medical records. And I think there was some evidence given that she had been suffering from anxiety before this alleged incident.
Yeah, so she had given evidence about panic attacks after the alleged rape, and Mr. Farr was putting it to her that there is evidence from her medical records that she suffered from anxiety and had panic attacks prior to this. Miss Hand said she'd no recollection of this, so the medical report was read out, a medical report from the 8th of June 2018, a consultation with a doctor who said that she had panic attacks, increased anxiety, and that he had given her up the dosage to 50 milligrams of an anxiety medication. She was asked, did she have any reaction at any point to this medication? And she denied that she did. She was then also asked about an interaction she had with a guard, John Ryan. He gave evidence later in the day. We'll come back to that in the Rotunda Hospital, and whether she had told him that she was in a hotel with her friend, but she wouldn't say the name of the friend. She said she did not remember telling him that. She was also asked by Mr. Farrell about the timing in which he said the rape happened. She had allegedly said in the sexual assault trauma unit to Gardaí that the rape occurred sometime between midnight and 2 a.m. Again, Miss Hand said that she didn't remember that.
So Mr. Farrell also asked her about the CCTV. Essentially, he said, you seem to remember being raped, but you don't seem to remember anything from the CCTV footage that was played to the court.
Yeah, so Mr. Farrell was saying this was in concluding his cross-examination of Miss Hand. He was saying that he wanted to put to her things that she does remember and that she doesn't remember to make it clear. So he said to her that she remembers going into the Beacon and getting into the lift. She said she did, but you don't remember being affectionate to Mr. McGregor. She said she doesn't. He said you remember being raped, but you don't appear to be you don't appear to have remembered it for some time. She said yes. She said you remember Texas D at 1828, and he said we've been around the houses on that, and she now accepts that she was in the underground car park and not in bed with Conor McGregor when she sent that text message. He said that her memory, that's another part where her memory appears to be gone. He said, you don't remember any of the things that we see on the CCTV. You don't remember anything of the half hour when you're down in the basement with Mr. Lawrence. And that you then remember being back up in the room and recalling the rape, but that you don't remember what happened then for the next couple of hours. So Miss Hand said she does remember being in the room, being upset, speaking to James, getting food, then getting into, she doesn't remember getting into the taxi, but remembers waking up in the taxi. She also said she remembers a bodyguard being present at one stage, and she does. That the next memory is giving the €50 to the taxi man, which she says she assumed she got from James Lawrence, and it was pointed out to her, well, you don't actually remember getting the money from James Lawrence, and she said no, she doesn't. She said she doesn't remember word for word what she was saying, for example, to Steve in the recording that we actually heard. And that concluded the cross-examination by Mr. Farrell.
Okay, and just for those who don't really know, Mr. Lawrence has his own senior counsel. And is it John Fitzgerald senior counsel, is it?
Yes, John Fitzgerald senior
counsel. Okay, so once Mr. Farrell has finished his cross-examination, Mr. Fitzgerald does his, so he has to represent his own client, so he starts asking Miss Hand questions.
Yeah, and so there are two respondents in this case, and Mr. Lawrence, Miss Hand is also suing him, and he denies the claims. And so this is the first time that his side are putting their arguments to the witness. So Mr. Fitzgerald said that it seems the first person that she told about the rape was Emer Brennan, and she discussed the details of it. And he said it's clear from her evidence that there is a quote unquote lone assailant. And Miss Hand had confirmed in her evidence that she had no problem with James Lawrence. He also referred to text messages that she sent. And again, it was always an allegation about someone, a lone assailant, a he and not they. Everything she'd said to Dr. Kane in the sexual assault trauma unit was about a he and not they. And when she had discussed it with the Rape Crisis Centre, she described a singular incident. Miss Hand confirmed all of this.
And also, I believe there is evidence that Miss Hand was interviewed by then Detective Sergeant Peter Woods, now Detective Inspector Peter Woods, in which she said there was one person.
She said there was one person, and she was asked specifically by Detective Sergeant Woods, did anything happen between you and James in the room? She said, no, just talking. She was later asked in that same interview, was there any sexual relations with any other person? And according to Mr. Fitzgerald, she gave an emphatic no, no, no. Mr. Fitzgerald said that Mr. Lawrence gave a subsequent statement to Gardaí on the 18th of January. So she had given her own statement on the 5th of January. Mr. Lawrence spoke to Gardaí on the 18th of January. Because of that, Miss Hand ended up going back into Gardaí to give a second statement on the 4th of February. And she confirmed in the court today that Gardaí put it to her what Mr. Lawrence had said. And she was also shown for the first time stills of CCTV that we have now seen in court of them in the elevator.
And essentially what Mr. Lawrence told Gardaí was that he had sex with Miss Hand.
Yeah, he said that he had sex with Miss Hand on 2 occasions. Mr. Fitzgerald put it to Miss Hand, does she not believe him? And she said, I think he is lying. He said, just to be clear, you think he's lying about having sex with you? And Miss Hand said, absolutely.
So then Mr. Fitzgerald said that Miss Hand was then asked by then Detective Sergeant Woods about the timeline of when she said the incident happened with Mr. McGregor. And Miss Hand had said, I don't think it was long after we arrived at the hotel.
Yeah. Now, in relation to this, Mr. Fitzgerald said, well, taking her account to be true, so we know she went in at around 12:30 in the afternoon. And if she's saying that she was raped by Mr. McGregor not long after that, she had said that they'd went to sleep. And we know from the footage that they went down in the elevator around 6 or so. So he says, according to her account, then she would have been asleep for something in the region of 5 hours. And he put it to her that she was that her account here was not the case, and he said he was going to suggest to her that actually in this period of time, he said a lot went on involving her, Conor McGregor, James Lawrence, and her friend Danielle, who was also in this penthouse suite room. He said he was putting to her that you and Conor McGregor were being very affectionate towards each other. He said you were pulling out of each other. You were happy and laughing with Mr. McGregor at one point, and that you and Mr. McGregor went from the first room into the bedroom. Miss Hand denied that and said she doesn't remember that. Just in relation to them going into the bedroom, he had suggested to her that that she was heard making moaning noises, and that he suggested to her that she was actually in there having a quote good time and not a bad time. After that, then was the alleged exchange where Danielle supposedly said that she was going to regret this because she just bought a house with her boyfriend. Miss Hand says she doesn't remember that encounter, but did acknowledge that she had just purchased a house with her then boyfriend, Steve. And Mr. Fitzgerald continued with this alleged version of events where he said that while Miss Hand was in the bedroom with Conor McGregor, she was having, quote, pleasurable sex, and that Mr. Lawrence and Danielle, in turn, were having sex in the other room. He said you were coming in and out of the bedroom and you saw it happen on multiple occasions, being Mr. Lawrence having sex with Danielle. Miss Hand said this is another made-up story. Mr. Fitzgerald suggested that she came out of the bedroom and that she did not appear at any stage to be distressed. And in fact, that this went on for some time. Enough time, he said, that his own client, Mr. Lawrence, had sex with Danielle 3 times.
And Miss Hand gave us a one-word answer to that, I believe.
Miss Hand said that this was lies. She was also asserting to the allegation that in the interim, while Mr. Lawrence was allegedly having sex with Danielle 3 times, that she was seen with the door open having sex with Conor McGregor for a second time, that she was on top of him. She also denied an allegation that she came out of the room and that she said to Mr. Lawrence that he was a dirty bastard for licking out her friend, was the quote that was used. And she responded to that in court, saying that is disgusting.
So the evidence, Paul, is that Mr. Lawrence had sex 5 times that evening.
Yeah, according to his own barrister, that would mean that James Lawrence is saying that he had sex with Danielle 3 times that evening, and that he had sex a further 2 times, all of which he claims to be consensual, with Miss Hand, meaning he says he had sex 5 times with 2 women that day. That is according to his own barrister.
Okay, so what was next?
So Mr. Fitzgerald also asked her about the interview that she had with Gardaí, where she said that what had happened sometime between 6 p.m. and 10:20 p.m. But she couldn't account for exactly when. She said she was afraid and she was hurt because of what she suffered in that room. Mr. Fitzgerald asked her about having a discussion about bruises that she had in her arm, that she supposedly had this discussion with James Lawrence, and she told him, "You all have blind eyes. You all put blind eyes to what Conor does to women." Mr. Fitzgerald put to her that she could remember the exact words that she said to James Lawrence and also the words that he said back. And he said that it was strange that she could remember that exact conversation, but that she had a lack of memory of the events otherwise, other than she could remember those. She said that those words were stuck in her head. She was then shown footage from 1349. The judge intervened at this point because he said, look, the witness doesn't remember anything of the footage. We've been through this, but he let it go on. Miss Hand again indicated that she really didn't want to watch the footage again, and she at this point asked for a break. We actually didn't come back then for some period of time, and the court went for lunch for an hour.
I understand that when the court did come back after lunch, there was more CCTV footage.
Yeah, the CCTV was ultimately shown, and the first clip that was shown was from 10 to 7 that evening. And Mr. Fitzgerald pointed to the footage and said, "That's you. You're now wearing a fur jacket. Do you know where it came from?" Ms. Hand said she'd no memory. Mr. Fitzgerald suggested to her that she went back up to the bedroom and she got the coat 10 minutes later. He said, "You've been in the room at that point." So he asked her, had it hit her at that stage that she had been raped by Conor McGregor, as she had claimed? Because he said in the footage, "It doesn't look like it has hit you." Miss Hand said it looked to her that she was very drunk. Mr. Fitzgerald said from the footage that we were watching in court that she is hugging, kissing, and biting James Lawrence in the clip. And again, it doesn't look like it has, quote, hit her, or that that it had hit her, that she had been, quote, violently raped.
And was there any reaction from Miss Hand to what Mr. Fitzgerald said then?
Yeah, Miss Hand again said, "Look, the footage, she doesn't remember it, and she appears to be very drunk in that footage." We were also shown footage from 7:02. Miss Hand is coming down the lift. Mr. Fitzgerald says in that clip she's leaving the hotel with the driver and Mr. Lawrence. They get into a car and they leave. They come back at 19:29. He says, "That's you returning." It clears you. So he says the footage shows you leaving and returning. "You might not remember now, but the camera doesn't lie," he said. Miss Hand said she'd no memory of that whatsoever. Finally, she was shown a clip from 22:17 that evening, which shows her leaving, quote, arm in arm with Mr. Lawrence. And he said, according to her own account, at this point, she would have had that conversation in the room where she had allegedly told Mr. Lawrence what had happened. So he said, certainly at this point, it has hit you. But he suggested to her that, again, in this clip, she didn't look like somebody who was distressed, having been violently raped earlier. Miss Hand denied that and said that she didn't have any memory of that. He said, "Well, it doesn't look like you're someone who's been hit by a steam train of memory." And Miss Hand just said she doesn't agree to that.
And did Mr. Farrell then ask her, that Detective Sergeant Woods asked, was she attracted to Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, this was actually Detective Sergeant White who asked her in interview, was she attracted to him in any way? She had given an emphatic not at all. Again, Mr. Fitzgerald referred to CCTV footage, and Miss Hand again said, "Look, she's very drunken and she doesn't know where her mind went." But Mr. Fitzgerald said, "In this footage, you are kissing Mr. Lawrence. He's not kissing you. You're putting your arm around him." He said, "If anything, it looks like the opposite of her claim that she was not attracted to him." Miss Hand at this point said she could not look at any more footage, and Mr. Justice Owens intervened again and said that he didn't think there would be anything more to be gained from watching further CCTV footage, and that ultimately the jury can go back and look at the CCTV at any point if they wish. And the footage, we didn't watch any more of the footage from that point on.
And Miss Hand says she wasn't going to watch anymore.
Yes, she did.
Okay, so what happened then? The judge put a stop to the CCTV footage essentially after Miss Hand said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, Mr. Fitzgerald said, "Look, the camera doesn't lie." He said that Miss Hand left the hotel for 20 minutes, and he actually suggested to her that what she said to Mr. Lawrence in the car was that she wanted to go to the Marble Arch pub and continue the party. Miss Hand denied saying that. He said that she was kissing Mr. Lawrence and that they decided ultimately to go back to the hotel room to, quote, continue the intimacy that was shown on camera. And he says that his client then had consensual sex with her. Miss Hand said that this was a made up story, and she denied it completely. Mr. Fitzgerald said that his own client had been given 2 condoms and that they had sex again for a second time, and he suggests only after this, for the first and only time, he said, Miss Hand became upset about something, and he alleged that she had become upset because she'd asked Mr. Lawrence what she was going to tell her boyfriend and about the bruising that she had.
And Miss Hand said she probably did say that and that she was very drunk.
Yes, she said she was very drunk and she may well have said that. Mr. Fitzgerald further added that he said that Miss Hand is attempting to edit Mr. Lawrence out of this case and that he has brought himself back into it. And he was suggesting that Miss Hand does actually have a memory of the events, but he suggested to her that it wasn't a good look for someone who was accusing another man, Conor McGregor, of rape, that to have actually had consensual sex with Mr. Lawrence then afterwards. And Miss Hand flatly denied that.
And I think that was the end of the cross-examination by Mr. Fitzgerald.
It was indeed.
What happened then? It was about some items of clothing were
Yeah,
evidence.
evidence, photographs of the jumpsuit that Miss Hand was wearing, which we were told was damaged, and also her underwear, and they were described in court as being scraps, and she identified that they were scraps, and she was asked, well, the damage was caused by, she said, pulling by Conor McGregor aggressively when he was attempting to rape me. So the jury now have those photographs of that. Her own counsel then just asked her about the exchange, the alleged exchange between her and Mr. Lawrence, and she was asked, I think you're clear in your opinion that you didn't have sex with Mr. Lawrence, and Miss Hand said she didn't, and he said, but if the guard said that James had sex with you, she had been asked about consent, and she said she would not have consented. And Mr. Fitzgerald had asked if James had sexual intercourse with Miss Hand, can she tell him about consent? She had said, I wouldn't have consented to him. He seen me crying. He seen the state that she was in.
So that was the end of Miss Hand's evidence. So she was on the stand on the first day, wasn't she? In the afternoon of the first day.
She was. She's effectively been 3 days in the witness box. I haven't totted up the number of hours, but she has been she's the person making the allegations. She spent a significant amount of time being cross-examined in particular.
Okay, so the next witness, who was that?
The next witness is Emer Brennan. She had been referred to quite a bit. Miss Hand had alleged that the first person she went to after the alleged rape was Miss Brennan. She was dropping back the salon keys, and she had told the court about meeting Miss Brennan, and that she had told her about the rape. So Miss Brennan was asked about this, and she confirmed that Nikita, firstly, she had been at the Christmas party with Nikita. She went to the salon, drinks afterwards, and she said she left at about 7 a.m. in the morning. She said she next heard from Nikita then when she rang her that night, and she was crying, she was upset, and she said that she'd be out in her house in a minute. She then sent her a text in the interim. She said she got a text from Nikita Hand where she said she had been in a hotel with Conor McGregor and that he raped me, and she had asked, how will I explain this to Steve? And then she arrived at the house.
Yes, so she arrived at the house, and Miss Brennan essentially said she sat her down on the couch and she was trying to comfort her.
Said she was trying to comfort her. She put her hair in a bobbin, and she asked her what happened. She said that Miss Hand looked shook. She took her coat off. She could see the bruise on her arm straight away, and she asked her what happened. She said that she recalled that Miss Hand told her she was in the Morgan Hotel. She'd got drinks in the hotel, and somehow she and Conor McGregor ended up back in the bedroom. She said he was trying it on with her. She wasn't comfortable with this, that she had a boyfriend. He kept trying it on. She bit him twice, and the second time was harder. And when she did that, he came behind her, grabbed her neck, choked her 3 times, and that she said she could see her daughter's face. She decided to stop fighting, gave up, let him do what he wanted. And the quote about the octagon, that now you know how it feels like to be in the how I felt in the octagon, was quoted. And she had allegedly told her that she let him do what he wanted. She lay on the bed together. And she'd also said, it sounds weird, but that part was actually nice because everything was all over.
And I think the next piece of evidence was that she said Miss Hand told her she saw other people coming into the room, and she jumped up because she thought she was going to be gang raped.
Yeah, this is, we heard a hint of this the other day, and she now, in her own evidence, says that she recalls Miss Hand saying to her that security men came into the hotel room and she jumped up and ran out because she thought she was going to be gang raped. She had, according to Miss Brennan, said that she went to look for Danielle, but Danielle wasn't there. She said to Conor's friend, do you turn a blind eye for what he does to women? Then she said to a driver that she wanted to go home. She asked, she said that this person asked her, does Conor want you to leave? And she ran off. She said she ended up getting a taxi. She first went to her sister-in-law, didn't get an answer, so then she went to Emer Brennan's house. She also told Emer Brennan that she had a tampon in and she thinks it was still inside her. She was crying and she said, what is she going to do? Miss Brennan said she advised her that she would probably have to go to the Rape Crisis Centre. And if she does go there, that it's best then for her not to have a shower.
And Miss Brennan also gave evidence that she could see a bruise on Miss Hand's arm.
Yeah, she said that she with her consent she took the clothing, the jumpsuit off in front of her, and that she saw bruising on her legs, on her arms, a scrape on her breast, bruising on her knuckle, scrape on her jaw, red mark on her neck. And she said that Nikita Hand asked her to she asked Nikita, will I take photographs? And she took 5 or 6 photos of the bruising, the injuries at the time.
And then she's further asked about articles in social media after the alleged event.
Yeah, so she says that Nikita Hand rang her. She was frantic and worried about the fact that it was in the paper and social media. She said she was asked by Miss Hand to scrub the photographs, and that she herself was worried, and that she was saying delete everything. She didn't want any more getting out, I suppose. I don't know, was what she said in court. She was also asked about whether Miss Hand came back to the salon. She said she initially did, but she wasn't herself anymore. She was ringing in sick a lot of the time. And obviously she said it was in the news sometimes and that people were openly talking about it in the salon and they didn't realise that it was to do with Miss Hand.
Okay, so that was the end, I believe, of her direct evidence. And as we've said before, once the direct evidence is over, cross-examination can begin. And Remy Farrell for Mr. McGregor started cross-examining her.
Yeah, well, Remy Farrell was particularly interested in this claim by Miss Brennan that she had said Miss Hand told her about jumping up and that she was going to be gang raped. Another claim that she also, when she was in the car park, that she thought a security guard was going to rape her and that she ran away. This differs with the account given by Miss Hand, and he asked her about this account and that it was clearly stuck in her mind that it was something that she deemed to be important. She said she did deem it to be important. She also acknowledged that in order for her not to forget her account, that she'd actually taken notes of what had happened between her and Miss Hand, that she took those notes about 2 weeks after the encounter, so that she wouldn't forget what had happened. And she confirmed all of that.
And I think she would have said that she was under a lot of pressure at the time, and that was one of the reasons why she took the notes.
Yeah, I she said she was under pressure in court today, when she was being asked about her particular account, because she was being asked about deleting the photographs that were on her phone. And she had told the court that Nikita had told her to delete the photos, but Mr. Farrell pointed out to her that in her Garda interview, she'd said that she'd come to the conclusion herself because of social media and news media coverage to delete the photographs, and she accepted that she probably did tell Gardaí that, and that aside from Nikita telling her, she also wanted to delete the photographs herself.
Okay, so I think that was the end of Miss Brennan's evidence, and the next witness was a detective sergeant.
Yeah, the final witness of the day, and we briefly heard about him earlier, was Detective Sergeant John Ryan. He was the Garda who arrived at Miss Hand's mother's house on the morning of the 10th, so the morning after the alleged rape. He called to the house, and so he was referring to notes that he took on the day, and he referred to that notebook and went through basically what was written in it: the word rape, DFB for Dublin Fire Brigade, the name, address, phone number of Miss Hand, and her mother's number. He put in a description of Nikita, describing her at the time as being extremely distressed and being tended to by ambulance staff.